Hello, everyone. This is Greg Aden with Aden Leadership, and today my guest will be Mr. David Kong. A lot of you in the hospitality industry know this iconic individual. He was very influential in the development and growth of Best Western hotels and resorts for over 20 years. Prior to that, he was chairman of the board, or during that time frame, he was chairman of the board in American Hotel and Lodging Association. David did a little consulting with KPMG. He was an associate VP, amongst other things, with Hyatt Hotels for about 20 years. And way back in 78 to 80, he was a food and beverage director with Omni. And now those are the days I want David to talk about, because in my humble opinion, that's when he really understood what the hospitality industry was all about. Today, he's a founder and principal of the DEI Advisors. He started that in 2021. He makes home in Scottsdale, Arizona. A little bit more about DEI. It's a nonprofit that empowers personal success through mentoring, coaching, and podcasting. He interviews industry leaders and other accomplished professionals to share their insights and advice with aspiring individuals who want to achieve their goals and dreams. David continues to inspire and influence others with his vision, values, and wisdom. Everywhere David Kong has gone, he has been a leader. Everywhere he goes, he's looked up to. And I know there's some nuances as to how David Kong became David. We're going to find out about that in a minute. But I can tell you what, he values mentoring and coaching and continues to be sought out for his vision and wisdom. Ladies and gentlemen, here comes David Kong. Hello, everyone. This is Greg Aden with Aden Leadership, and I have a very special guest on my podcast today. To those in the hospitality industry, he would need no introduction. To all the other people not in the hospitality industry, perhaps, let me introduce to you Mr. David Kong. David, are you coming to us from your beautiful home in Scottsdale or somewhere across the world?
I am coming to you from Scottsdale, and thanks, Greg. I appreciate having me on your show.
Oh, my pleasure. It's an honor to have you. You know, I'd like to start out, David. A lot of us know you 20 years with Best Western, and you had some time with KPMG. You were in at Hyatt for 20 years, plus or minus. But where
Right.
I really want to start, if you don't mind, is rumor has it you were a food and beverage manager way back when, 78-ish. For Omni. What were those days like when you were, I guess, just cutting your teeth in hospitality?
Well, actually, I am an immigrant to this country. I moved to Hawaii to attend the University of Hawaii, and there was when I started in a hotel career. I started as a dishwasher, and then somebody liked me and made me a busboy. And I worked really hard and became a waiter. And then from that point on, I built my career. And I eventually worked my way up to be food and beverage director at the Dunphy Dallas Hotel, which became Omni Company.
Sure.
And you know what? In those days, I'm just working hard trying to build a career, knew nothing about leadership or how things work. Really, I was still trying to figure out how things work in this country and
Mm.
getting adjusted to the way things are done here and the culture and everything else. So it was a very humble beginning, and I'm glad that it panned out for me.
Well, we have a few similarities already. My first job was working at a Tasty Freeze, but my first real job in hospitality was as a dishwasher, and I couldn't wait to get out of there. And they threw me into being a busboy as well. So, how old were you when you quote unquote landed in Hawaii?
I was barely 18 years old, and
Mm.
when I came, I had nothing, no friends, no money, and no way back. I was on a one-way ticket. My parents saved up their life savings to send all the kids abroad, and I was very lucky to be given this opportunity.
That's a great story. There's a lot of people who aren't given any opportunities, and maybe we can get into that in a while as well. So move forward all the way to today to a couple years ago. You're retired from Best Western, and you have this idea. Tell us where DEI Advisors came from. Where in your heart, where in your head, who else was involved in creating it, and I'll just sit back and listen.
Yeah, back in the days when I was CEO at Best Western, which became BWH Hotels, I would be invited to CEO panels at different industry conferences, the New York Investment Conference or ALIS, the American Lodging Investment Summit. and the like. And it would seem odd to me that I would be the lone token minority representation at these panels. It would be all white men at these panels. Nothing against any of them. They're all my friends, and I have
Sure.
great respect and admiration for every one of them. But it's not like we don't have qualified women who could be CEOs or qualified other minority groups that could be CEOs, but they were just none present. And the organizers also recognize this to be a problem because they try very hard to have a more diverse representation of these panels, but the reality is there weren't too many candidates they could invite. So it's a problem that our industry didn't do a good enough job in promoting the diverse talent. So I thought to myself one day when I have some time, I would like to do something to contribute in solving this problem. And as I retired, I began looking around at what other hotel companies were doing. And I was very impressed. You take Marriott or Hilton or XG or Hyatt, they were all doing wonderful things. They have programs to attract diverse talent.
Mm.
They have development programs to promote them. They set goals, very worthwhile goals, to make sure they have diverse representation in their leadership teams. For example, I particularly like this. Hilton set a goal to have 50% of their general managers be female, which is great, and
Mhm.
25 be from the other minority representation groups, underrepresented groups. And I think that's worthwhile. They hold themselves accountable in reporting these results on a quarterly basis, and I think it's great.
Yeah.
And some of them even had board committees dedicated to improving diversity in the organization. So I said to myself, well, they're already doing such a great job. I can't really add value to what they're doing. And then I thought that, hey, perhaps we should start with the individuals, because oftentimes I've been an immigrant, know firsthand that sometimes the way that we think, we shortchange ourselves to put a artificial cap on what our potential could be. And a lot start from ourselves. We need to empower ourselves. So I thought maybe we could found a nonprofit dedicated to empowering personal success.
Mm.
And the way that we go about doing that is to interview successful people, well-recognized leaders such as you, and gather from them their learnings, their advice, and their perspectives. And we identified quite a few themes, and we asked these leaders about these themes, whether it be self-care or um, work-life balance or overcoming the imposter syndrome or so on and so forth. And I'm proud that I'm able to attract a few other like-minded individuals, Rachel Humphrey being one of them.
Yeah.
And we together have interviewed, I think, about 170 some leaders in the industry, and we collect tremendous insight. And I'm quite proud. The next step I'm going to do is to write up some of these themes and quote from these leaders on these topics. And we have probably 15, 20 topics that I can focus on and share these wonderful insights with people.
Yeah. Well, shout out to Hilton, shout out to Hyatt, Marriott, IHG, and the like to take this seriously. Who was or still is so influential in your success? Was successful or was influential or is still influential in your success?
Well, there are just too many to name. I think I could name my parents who
Thank you.
gave me the work ethic and their unconditional love and saving. I mean, their only goal in life was to work hard, save money, and send their kids abroad. I mean, how
Mm,
noble is that? And
very.
that unconditional love and the work ethic that they had left an indelible impact on me. So I came to this country with nothing except the work ethic.
Hmm.
And the other thing was, I went to a Jesuit high school, and God bless these fathers, Jesuit fathers. They learned how to speak Chinese in Hong Kong, and they taught in English and Chinese. And from a young age, I learned from them the value of being curious, just asking a lot of questions. That curiosity is just so important in our growth and development. And then you fast forward to my starting working with other people. I learned what to do and what not to do by observing my bosses.
Yeah.
I had a boss from hell when I was at Hyatt, and my son had a hole in his heart when he was born. And you have children, you know what that's like for parents.
Sure.
And we were in and out of the emergency room all the time. And my boss was asking about my dedication to my job. It was unbelievable. But my team really rallied around me and supported me, and we achieved the best results ever during that time period, and which was remarkable. And it goes to show you people empathize with you, and they want to support you when they're going through hardship. It's just human nature. But
Amen.
I learned what not to do in that situation when I became someone in that position. And then you start reading about the other leaders in other industries, people like Jeff Bezos. I think that guy is just brilliant. Look at what he has done with Amazon.
Yeah.
And the two things that he said I would never forget. One is he said it's always day one. And the significance of that is if you think about day one in a startup, it's so exciting. The sky's the limit. You feel so energized. Everybody feels energized. And it's do or die. You have to make it count.
Yeah.
And that sense of day one is so important to that atmosphere of innovation and can do and try anything kind of attitude. And I think if you can have that thinking in your mind and you can build that atmosphere in the group that you work with or the company that you work in, sky's the limit if you
Yeah.
can do that. And he said day two is stasis, which is also true, because if you lose that excitement, then you become just ordinary. And if you're ordinary, then you just fall way back.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that he said that is of significance is you have to be willing to be misunderstood. And the
Mm.
significance of that is sometimes when you're trying to push for breakthrough ideas, not everyone around you would understand it or support it. And you have to have patience to navigate through those situations. Sometimes it's political, sometimes it's rivalry, and sometimes it's just plain difficult.
Sure.
And a lot of times we give up on ideas because it's just too hard.
Yeah.
But if you don't have the strength and resilience to put through it and navigate those difficulties and challenges, you can't be successful. So I learned how to be innovative through reading about Jeff Bezos and how he thinks about things and how he gets things accomplished. And I think that's really important. If you think about the different stages in one's career evolution, you start with being an individual contributor. You can't be an individual contributor if you are not working hard
Right.
and you're not curious and building up knowledge and strength. And the second phase is you have to learn to work with people. So what I went through taught me how to work with people. And you mentioned empathy and understanding and sensitivity uh, around all of you and being supportive of uh, all those that work around you and helping them achieve their career aspiration. That's really important for that stage. The third one is if you want to be a transformative leader, you have to be innovative. You have to have those breakthrough ideas. You have to be a visionary to push for those changes and to differentiate yourself,
Yeah.
much like what Amazon has done.
Yeah. Well, there's probably, like you said, way too many people to to mention, and I'm just going to name a couple people, and just for fun, what's the first word that comes into your head when I say these names? Kirk Kinsell.
He's a friend.
uh,
No, I like him a lot and I admire him, especially based on the conversation I had with him when he retired.
Yeah.
He said, "I am." He didn't say sick and tired, but he said, I'm tired
Hmm.
of trying to make money for other people. I want to do something to help other people."
Amen.
So
Amen.
that's why I particularly like him.
He doesn't know this, but that was my reason too. I mean, yes, I made really good money, David, but why am I really here? And I mean, that sounds so corny to a lot of people, but why are we really here? And at the end of the day, it wasn't about selling franchises, it was about raising children. And I had no idea how important it was to be a dad, how cool that was going to be. And that's what I'll be remembered by. And I may be remembered for helping people become better leaders, and that would be awesome too. um Again, first word that comes to your head: Rachel Humphrey.
Rachel Humphrey, you wouldn't see a more dedicated person than her. She is so on top of things. I'll tell you a story about her. I was attending the HOA convention. That was her last stint as the chief operating officer for HOA. She was the interim
Hmm.
CEO. And people were speaking on stage, and she's backstage working with a teleprompter. She has the whole script in front of her, following the lines word by word, and making sure the teleprompter was doing her job. And where do you find a COO of an organization that big doing that at a conference? I mean, she's just so dedicated and so passionate about everything that she does. Her founding of the Alliance of Women Leaders, that's another
Yeah.
incredible feat because, look at all these disparate women organizations and alliances, and she had the ability to tie everyone together and make
Yeah.
one unified group. And, sometimes unity is power.
Yeah, it is.
And she was able to make changes. She was pushing for more female representation at the podium at all these conferences. And she did a great job at it, because she's just so dedicated and so well known in the industry. So I have great admiration for her.
Yeah, I said on her interview of me, I don't believe it's the women lacking the ability to speak up for themselves. I believe there's a lot of men in their way who just need to get over themselves. And there, I said it again. You are also a recipient of this gentleman's award, Arnie Sorensen. What do you remember about Arnie, and what's special about with this gentleman?
Ani is very, very special. I tell you a story that illustrates the kind of man that he was. The first time I met him, I think I don't even think he was president yet. He was executive vice president at Marriott. We were at the New York hotel and restaurant show. I mean, the show is no longer in existence, but it was way back. It's 20 some years ago. We were just having a conversation. He was talking about how he likes automation in the hotel industry, and he would prefer not to touch anyone, like
Mhm.
not have to touch anyone, not have to go to the front desk to check in. He would just like to get a key and go to his room. And we're just having a friendly debate about that. And I was saying that, it's about the experience, and you can't have a good experience without interaction with other human beings. And this is when the hotel staff can make a difference and make
Right.
experience special and memorable. Had a good conversation. And afterwards, he asked me, "Oh, where are you heading?" I said, "Oh, I'm going back to the hotel." He said, "Would you like a ride? I have my car picked me up." So his daughter was waiting in the car. He took me back to the hotel. I thought that was really nice. And then fast forward to during the pandemic, we at the onslaught of the pandemic in March, AHLA had arranged for all the CEOs to fly into DC to meet with President Trump. And everybody was asking about uh, some relief or different things, for the loans or for whatever.
Sure.
And when it was his turn, he actually just asked for one thing. He said, "Can we improve the unemployment benefits? Because a lot of people are going to be out of a job in our industry." As
Yeah.
it turned out, almost 50%
Yeah.
of the industry folks lost their jobs, which was just such a sad and regrettable thing that we all had to do at that time. But he was only focused on how do we take care of these people,
Yeah.
which really shows you the compassion of this special man. Arnie Sorensen has transformed Marriott. Look at all the things that he's done, the acquisition of Starwood and other companies. He's redefined that company and he's transformed it into what it is today. He gave a good foundation to all the people that followed him. So, and he was such an inspiration to all of us in the industry.
Yeah.
Just for men.
I worked for Marriott 8 years when I was a kid, so to speak, in sales. And I started out as a bellman at a little resort in Lake of the Ozarks. And I remember Arnie Sorensen very well. In fact, at Lake of the Ozarks, I met Mr. Marriott Sr. prior to his passing. And I had no idea what a privilege and honor that was going to be. One more, Steve Porter. One of my
Steve
favorite
Fuller.
one of my favorite guys. I mean,
Yes, at IG.
we went through CEOs like well, I won't say it, but anyway, he was my favorite. And tell me what's your thoughts about Mr. Porter?
Actually, Steve Porter came before Arnie Sorensen, and when I first met Arnie, I thought, boy, he's just like Steve Porter.
Hmm.
Steve Porter is very much a kind and caring kind of a guy,
Yeah.
just like what we talked about Arnie Sorensen. And I have great regard for the man. He is so smart, and I attended several meetings with him, whether it's at AHOA or other conferences, and everything out of his mouth is just brilliant.
It
He's
was.
just such a remarkable person.
Yeah. Well, I miss him.
Yeah.
It's funny. My 12-year-old and I were having a conversation. He's starting to lean into church a little bit more and understand where things really happen. And he said, "Dad, why do bad things happen to good people?" And I said, "I don't know. That's a great question. You'll have to pray about it because it seems like it happens way too often." I want you to when you talk about leadership, and let's say a 12-year-old or a 14-year-old saw you in the elevator, David, and they looked up at you and said, "Sir, what do you think the essence of leadership is?" And you only have a few floors to answer the question. So, what would you tell this young man or young woman?
Yeah, I think one day they would learn that leadership is actually about a lot of things. It's about being a champion and being a cheerleader. And it's about servant leadership, meaning helping others become more successful is more important than your own personal fame and glory. It's uh, it's about creating that atmosphere in a group that is just so exciting. Similar to what I said about it's always day one.
Yeah.
And leadership is also about being visionary, about knowing what's going to happen, and it's about seeing the future, knowing how you need to differentiate yourself to be successful for the future. And being a transformative leader is not easy.
Mm-mm.
In fact, that's why I remind myself of that saying, you have to be willing to be misunderstood. Because invariably, when you try to do things that are extraordinary, you would have a lot of pushback. And if you want to be a good leader, you better have thick skin.
Yeah.
Yeah, you better know that it's going to come, and you need to be humble and respectful and engaging and try to understand everyone's viewpoint so you can navigate that animosity sometimes that's created. So
Yeah.
it's not an easy thing, but it takes a lot of practice and a lot of observation, and sometimes having people point out your blind side is important. People tell you. I always welcome if people can give me suggestions or advice on how I can do things better. You have to be willing to do that.
Yeah. Well said. And again, I believe the 12 and 14-year-old person, depending on what age and how they've been parented up to that moment when they met you in the elevator, they would understand most of what you just said. And you mentioned blind spots. As an executive coach and a leadership consultant, I often ask my clients to go through the exercise of finding out what their blind spots are. And some they know exist, they just don't know what they are. And then others, they don't know what they are, and others see them. So I ask them to be curious, ask the people around you, not what I can do better or help me see what I can't see. And that creates love and trust and respect in relationships. And to me, leadership is it starts with self. I don't believe, David, we can show up for others unless we're right ourselves. But then leadership to me also means it's all about relationships. And as a dad or as a friend or as a son or a father, etc., we are leading the people that are following us. So when you hear the word relationships relative to leadership, what comes to mind?
I'm old school. I came up Maleta in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and at that time it was all about intensity. It
Mm,
was about how tough you are. The
I remember
definition of
those
a
days.
good leader is about how tough you are. It's so different today. And someone like me who grew up in that era and was exposed to that and was fed the nonsense that being tough is being a good leader, I had so much to undo.
Yeah.
And I never quite understood the proper meaning of having good relationship at work because I just thought that I can't be too close to the people I work. Just it'd be difficult for me to make the hard decisions. But that's not true. That
Mm-mm.
you can make that distinction when the time comes. But having good relationship is essential to create that environment where there's collaboration, where people are not afraid to make a mistake. If people were afraid to make a mistake, there'd be no progress.
Exactly.
But if we didn't fall down, we wouldn't learn how to walk.
Right.
And so it's really important to create that proper atmosphere at work. And Gallup has these 5 questions that they ask to gauge employee engagement. And one of the questions that always struck me as being odd, but then I eventually understood was, do you have a best friend at work? The answer to that is predictive to whether that person is engaged or not at work. And now I understand the meaning of that because you go to work, you want to be happy, right?
Yeah.
If you have the best friend at work, you got to be happy. And you feel like someone is going to look out for you, which is so very important. That feeling of trust, the comfort that you need to have to take those risks is so important to anybody's success. So I think if you can't build that relationship at work, you can't be a successful leader.
Yeah. Well said. And I really love what you said that and I don't think we're too far off in age, frankly. I had to undo a lot too, David. I really thought that being arrogant and focused and making money for others and basically keeping people at arm's length so I could get my job done. And I wouldn't help the Marriott person. I wouldn't help the Hilton person back in the day. And I don't. If I give you information, then you're gonna maybe get something from me. But when I started really collaborating, and by the way, this is way back when Eric Jacobs was on the team. He had Southern California, and I had Texas and Oklahoma. And when I first got introduced to this role, I was looking around and looked at the other 13 regional sales director, and there's Eric Jacobs in one corner and a few people like Bob Eckman in the other. And I'm thinking, I was just a vice president of a financial services company. What the heck am I doing here? But I realized that the ease of selling was not selling. It was helping somebody buy what they said they wanted. And people know that how many deals I did and blah blah blah. And I just was quoted saying this the other day. I don't know that I ever sold anything, even though I was in franchise sales. I created relationships. I created trust. I created atmosphere where I could be depended on. And I had to make some tough decisions relative to my recommendations as to what would be or who would be the best franchisee. And it came down to who could I trust to make sure that they put the best product in front of our customers. And so I had to undo a lot too. And I'm going to read you a quote from someone that I was introduced to from my lovely wife Tammy Fisher. I'll give her a shout out. And it goes something like this. I've learned not everyone will remember what you said. People will not remember what you did, but people will always remember how you made them feel. Maya Angelou. And, she also goes on to say, I learned I still have a lot to learn. And I believe, David, I'm looking at a man who believes that how we make other people feel at the end of the day is what's going to possibly end up on our tombstone. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but when you hear that, and again, you're old school. I used to be, I'm in servant leadership every day. But what do you hear when I say people will always remember how we make them feel?
It is so true. I I never realized it until I was walking around touring a hotel one point, and I took some time to talk to the housekeeper. And I learned later she just thought that was like the best day ever. That the CEO of the company took time to uh, talk to her. She just thought it was really special and made her day. And it was just like a 2-minute thing.
Yeah.
And taking an interest about her children. We didn't even talk about work. I just asked her if she had family and where she came from. But that those 2 minutes were so important um, to that person. She'll remember that for a long time to come.
Yeah.
And the reality is we have 24 hours a day. What impact are we having on the people around us? Can we take the time to be nice and kind and just do a little thing, strike up a conversation with someone, take an interest in somebody, and that would affect that person so profoundly. So I do agree
Yeah.
with you on that. And I remember years ago, I was food and beverage director for this hotel, and the president of the company came in, and he had ordered room service that morning. So he came in. I was happened to be wearing the same tie as him, and he said, "Oh, I admire your good taste." And I looked at his tie, looked at my tie. I said, "Oh, okay, that's a compliment," because he's known to be a really tough and intense guy. So I said, "Oh, thank you. I appreciate saying that. That made me feel pretty good." But the next thing out of his mouth was, "I ordered poached eggs this morning. It was cold."
Mm.
And that was the end of the conversation. Okay. And then it went on to talk about something else. That made me feel awful.
Yeah.
So just like one sentence could take me from a really happy and high place and to a low, low, low place.
And
That's the impact that someone could have on us.
and like I said, I coach from the inside out, and I coach the person because I have recognized over the years, and certainly in my training, that the impact or the influence or the inspiration of others can either be good, positive, or negative, and we get to decide.
We got to
And
decide. Yeah.
and we get to decide. And I believe that anyone listening to this, no matter what you have done or said to others before now, you can decide right now and tomorrow to be more kind and humble. Now, you said there's going to be a few themes that are going to be bubbling up. I'm gonna really politic for these three. Curiosity, you've mentioned it. I believe being authentically curious and asking questions of the people around you will get information from them, and as a leader, if you're listening, will make you more intelligent in the moment. And also in a true way, you're including others by being authentically curious. So curiosity and empathy, absolutely understanding where the other person is coming from. What will it hurt if you try and understand where they're coming from, especially if you call them important to you? And then the last one would be compassion. Let's just be more kind and compassionate to other human beings a little bit more. And if we do this a little bit more every day, imagine the millions and millions of kind and compassionate moments we can have. So those are my three. Then I hope get voted into the 15. And I'll leave you with this. David Kong, anything you would like to share with my audience relative to how you've become David, what you want to do next, and what you might want the world to hear you say.
Boy, I, I, uh, I don't know. At this stage of my career, I just want to contribute in any way that I can in helping others become more successful. As an immigrant, I know how tough it is for a lot of people, and you don't have to be immigrant to be living the hard days. But I,
Sure.
I know firsthand how difficult it was for me, and somehow I beat the odds and I made it. Now it's my duty and obligation to pay it forward to make sure other people can become more successful. That's one. The other one is we have a tremendous labor challenge in our industry. And I don't really understand it in some way because our industry provides so many wonderful opportunities. Someone like me, I could be starting as a busboy and dishwasher, and I could make it to becoming the CEO of one of the largest hotel companies in the world. That's testament to the opportunities this industry provides. This industry has empowered me to have bold dreams, and it's empowered me to pursue those dreams without hesitation. That story needs to be shared and propagated, and people need to know what wonderful career opportunities exist in our industry. It's not just being a front desk person or working in a restaurant. There's so many different facets to our industry, whether it's in selling franchises or um, doing development or finance or technology. I mean, it's revenue management.
Yeah.
Now it's chief commercial officer. He can work towards that, event planning. It's just so many wonderful opportunities and so exciting. I mean, this industry is so resilient. Look at what we endured and survived from. The worst downturn in our industry ever.
Yeah.
We came back, we came roaring back. And so this industry provides such wonderful opportunities, so resilient and so strong. And it's something that people should consider as a career opportunity.
Yeah. Lots of flexibility. You talk about having best friends at work. I mean, I can't even name all the best friends I had working in this industry. And I found something that I truly love and I'm passionate about it. And I practice it every day with my kid. And I try to create it or try to practice it as much as I can with my wife as well. And it's not always easy, but it's fun. And I look at leadership and parenting and other things in that realm as it's a privilege. It's an honor. There's no obligation at all. And when you accept it that way and kind of a smile in your heart, people feel it and they're attracted to it and they don't take advantage of it. It's interesting. It might be free, but they don't take advantage of it. So anyway, David Kong, I appreciate you so much. Good luck with you, what you're doing with DEI Advisors. Those of you that don't know, please check it out. It's easy to find. Just go to LinkedIn and find DEI Advisors. Find out what David and Rachel and others are doing with that great organization. And just as one hospitality guy to another, David, I've really enjoyed this. I hope you have too. And I wish you the very, very best in everything that you touch.
No, I've enjoyed it as well. And Greg, thanks so much for having me. And thank you so much for what you do because you are making a difference in someone else's life. And that's wonderful. And you've obviously found a purpose. And that is so important. You said earlier, it's important to understand the why
Mhm.
and the purpose. And I applaud you for what you do. Thanks again, Greg.
You bet. Here you go, David Kong with DEI Advisors, been my guest today, and I'm just going to ask you to consider what I asked David to consider relative to the themes, and be authentically curious, be compassionate, and please go out and have empathy for others, and see if you just won't have a better day. God bless, and good luck to everyone.